What's up, everybody? Adobe just reported earnings yesterday after the bell. It was a pretty decent report. This is a company we've looked at before. We'll see how their results compare to what I was forecasting and what I had in my base case for this company. I'll tell you how I see risk reward for this investment. And as always, I will tell you what I'm doing with my money here. I've used all sorts of Adobe products for over 15 years now. I used to run a small media production company in LA. The number of times I've banged my head against the wall trying to track motion data in Adobe After Effects or have Premiere Pro just crash on me unexpectedly, I have no clue. I've had a love-hate relationship with Adobe, the company. Today, we're going to look at their stock. We're going to see how it stacks up as an investment. As always, if you get value out of the video, subscribe to the channel. We are looking at Adobe in my custom template right here. If you want to make Google Sheets like this, consider following me on Patreon. I'm using my own custom add-on to import their financial data, and I do have the data for their fourth quarter in here. Now, real quick, before we jump into Adobe, just want to spend a few minutes and talk about the fact that the Fed cut rates yesterday by 25 basis points. There's always tons of articles and tons of investors talking about what the Fed is doing. And it's not that the Fed isn't important, they are, but many investors overemphasize the Fed, or they think too much about what the Fed is going to do when they make their investing decisions. I would argue for most of your investments, whether the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points yesterday or they left them flat, yes, that might have affected the markets in the short term. There might have been, if the Fed held rates flat, markets might have sold off, probably would have. But if you realistically just sit there for a moment and ask yourself, what do you think the effect is of the Fed cutting rates by 25 basis points on Adobe stock price, 5 years from now? And the answer, I would argue, is effectively nothing. Yes, if you're looking at a company with a large amount of maybe floating rate debt, then yeah, cutting rates by 25 basis points probably going to help out a little bit. But in general, Fed rate decisions are overhyped by investors. They might affect prices in the short term, but they have less of an effect on most businesses than a lot of investors would have you believe. On top of that, what the Fed is going to do to rates is not predictable. I mean, Jerome Powell, he's got an idea for where, he thinks rates are going to be in a year or 2 years from now, and same with everyone else on that committee. But if something happens, if there's a big recession, then, all those projections, all those ideas that they have, they go out the window. Jerome Powell does not know what interest rates will be like in a year. I don't know what interest rates are going to be like in a year. And frankly, it's not really worth our time to worry about it. So with all that said, let's get into looking at Adobe. Clearly, the market liked the report. It's up 3%. That's not a huge jump from an earnings report like this. Keep in mind, Adobe's been down a lot over this year, down around 20% year to date. Over the past 5 years, down 25%. So the company has sold off quite a bit, but it's not really dirt cheap. I mean, there's tons of people who I've heard call Adobe a dirt cheap stock. It is trading for, roughly 21 times its trailing earnings. If you want to look at enterprise value to operating income, it's trading at, 16 to 17 times. If you want to look at adjusted free cash flow, which for me, what I call adjusted free cash flow is free cash flow minus share-based compensation. Share-based compensation is a real expense that a lot of times companies like to ignore. They like to pretend that this doesn't exist. But yes, this is a real expense if we own equity in the business. And as a multiple of adjusted free cash flow, they're trading like, 19 times adjusted free cash flow or, 5.3% free cash flow yield. So this is not an expensive company for the quality of the business, but it's not like dirt cheap. Some people are saying that this is trading for, 14 times earnings or something like that. You have to jump through some hoops to come up with a number like that. Basically, what you have to do is you're looking at forward earnings, and then on top of that, you are subtracting out share-based compensation. Now, Adobe, when they're reporting their numbers, they talk about non-GAAP measures, like non-GAAP earnings per share. When Adobe talks about non-GAAP earnings per share, they're talking about earnings per share if we assume that we didn't have to account for the share-based compensation, the stock that we give to our employees. If you want to look at that number, that's fine, but just be aware that's a nonsense measurement for a company like Adobe when they're giving out about $2 billion worth of stock a year to their employees. From an expense standpoint, this should really be treated the same as salary. Don't you think that it would be ridiculous if a company reported, hey, these are our earnings if we assumed that we didn't have to pay any salaries? That would be absurd, right? Now, Adobe really isn't doing anything shady here. This is actually a fairly common practice, especially among tech companies. That doesn't make it a good practice, and it doesn't mean that we should use these non-GAAP numbers when we're making assumptions about the future. So this was Adobe's fourth quarter of their fiscal year 2025. And just looking at the full year results, we see revenue up 11% year on year. That's pretty good. Revenue growth has slowed down a little bit, but really, this growth looks very nice. Yes, they were growing more like, 20-ish% back, 2017 to 2021. Now slowing down to, 10, 11%, but still, these are good numbers. Again, earnings per share for the year, a little under $17. They're trading for roughly 21 times earnings. Now, the 2026 targets are more like $18 in earnings per share. So if you want to use that number, then I guess 19-ish times forward earnings. But again, if anyone is using their non-GAAP measures or any measurement where you are not taking into account stock-based compensation on a company that is paying out about $2 billion of it a year, then you're effectively looking at nonsense numbers. Now, with all that out of the way, let's just dive into the business. There's a lot of good news in this report. There's been this narrative that AI is going to eat Adobe's lunch and that there's a big threat to Adobe's dominance here when, people can type in some prompt into some generative AI application and they can get a photo or a video and, maybe people don't need Adobe products. I don't really buy into this narrative. I think a lot of the fear around AI with Adobe is overblown. If you're using something like Photoshop, you're probably a creative professional. And frankly, it's difficult for me to imagine someone who is, say, a photographer to just not have Photoshop. It's not really possible. There are many of these Adobe applications where there just isn't a good alternative. At least Premiere, if you didn't want to use Adobe Premiere, you could use DaVinci Resolve perhaps. But something like After Effects, they really don't have a competitor here. You just have to suck it up and use After Effects. And maybe that's why the program still has a bunch of bugs. Again, love-hate relationship with After Effects, incredibly powerful, but man, is it a pain. The point is, for a lot of tasks, you kind of have to use Adobe products if you are a professional. And in many of their apps, especially Premiere and Photoshop, they're integrating a lot of AI tools inside the app itself. Adobe's native AI stuff is still not the best out there, but you know what they're doing? They're partnering with other companies, places like Google, and they're integrating their AI tools inside of their products. And this is, I think, what a lot of people miss when they say, AI is going to kill Adobe. Adobe is a software company. They don't have to be the market leader in every AI application. I think Adobe is going to benefit from AI because they're going to partner with, again, Google and the other leaders to bring in their AI tools inside of their software. Creative professionals are still going to use Adobe software. That's my opinion. That's my base case. And frankly, when I look at the numbers, I don't really see any evidence that AI is eating into Adobe's business. Now, maybe something that the market doesn't like about Adobe is, they're not growing their customer base massively. A lot of the growth is coming from the existing customers. They do highlight monthly active users for Acrobat and Express has been growing 20% year over year. So, that's great on those products. I'm not really familiar with Acrobat Studio. Express is kind of like a lightweight version of a lot of Adobe's applications all in one. It's clearly their, attempt to compete with Canva and other apps like that. They say consumption of generative credits in Creative Cloud, Firefly, and Express increased 3 times quarter over quarter. That sounds impressive. And just in case you don't know, generative credits, these are, when you have a Creative Cloud subscription, you're given a certain number of generative credits a month, which essentially you use to do AI things, generative expand in Photoshop, extend in Premiere, things like that. And while this sounds really impressive that it's increasing 3 times quarter over quarter, I'm just going to give you a little bit of color into this, a little bit of background. What used to happen for, something like generative fill in Photoshop or Lightroom Classic, things like that. If you wanted to use generative fill, that costs you generative credits, but when those credits ran out, the feature would actually still be available. It would just be like slower, the output quality maybe wouldn't be as good. But then maybe around, I think 5 or 6 months ago, they changed that. And now you run out of credits. Those features, they're just disabled. They're just blocked. This annoyed a bunch of users. These are users who are already paying decent amounts for your subscription, and you're just putting software behind a secondary paywall. All right, I just searched on Reddit, so you can hear from some other people, get a little sense of what the creative community's sentiment is towards generative credits, I guess. I could show you a bunch of chains, but honestly, I think this sums it up. This person is clearly pissed off about generative credits. Again, this was about 6 months ago, so right after this change went into effect. Maybe people have cooled down now, but he says, honestly, at this point, blank Adobe, I think I'm going to make the swap to another program. And the response is, okay, well, what program are you looking at? And there just really is no good response to that question. This person here asks, you guys find any alternatives yet? And that basically sums it up. If you want to use Photoshop or After Effects, there isn't really another program that does exactly what those programs do. Yes, there's Canva, which can do some stuff you can do in Photoshop, but it's just not the same. I believe this was the first full quarter with the change that they made to generative credits, where they basically force you to buy more if you want to keep using that product. So that could explain why this says 3x quarter on quarter. In any case, I think it's time we bring it back to our sheet and see, what we could expect for a return on our investment going forward. What do we think are realistic assumptions for the future of this company? And looking down here at my assumptions, these are the same as I had from 3 months ago, from whenever we looked at Adobe last. So we're going to see, are these still reasonable? Should we update any of these? In my base case, I was putting in 10% revenue growth every year for 5 years. I think that's reasonable. It's basically what the company is guiding for next year, but it's not exactly conservative. We're assuming that they can continue to do that for 5 years. I think I'm going to leave that where it is, but I could consider bringing that down a little bit to, 8 or 9% if I want a bit of safety there. As far as operating margin, the company is right now, a bit more like 35, 36% margins. As they scale out, this is a relatively asset-light business. So it's possible 34%, underselling it a little bit. Let's bring that up. I think maybe 35% is reasonable. I'm giving them a 25% adjusted free cash flow margin, which equates to, $6.5 billion growing to $9.5 billion in effectively money that's coming back to us shareholders in the form of buybacks. That's pretty aggressive. It is a large amount of buybacks. This company has been being aggressive with buybacks. It's true. I don't think that these are unreasonable assumptions, but again, it's not crazy conservative. And as far as a multiple, I'm giving them an 18 times multiple. I think that's fair for a company like this. They have great margins, strong competitive position. I think they're going to be around for a very long time. I think they're going to remain a market leader. And we're assuming, 10% growth, 18 times multiple, not unreasonable. And in this scenario, you're looking at a 15% annualized return on this stock over 5 years, or basically a double on your money over 5 years. That's pretty good. And as far as my bear and bull case, I think I'm pretty happy with the numbers as I have them. My bear case, I have revenue growing 7% every year for 5 years. Operating margins and free cash flow margin contracting a little bit to reflect, maybe the pressure from other competitors. Canva, Figma, who knows, is going to push margins down just slightly. These are still incredible margin numbers, by the way. And I'm giving them a 14 times multiple in this scenario. I don't think that's really a dirt cheap valuation. And in this case, you're looking at a 5% annualized return on this stock. That's really quite good for a bear case. My bull case, 12% revenue growth, margins keep on expanding, reaching 38% operating margins out 5 years, and I'm giving them a 25 times multiple. This is definitely a premium valuation. Yes, they've traded for more expensive than this in the past, but I really can't give them more than a 25 times multiple for a company with 12% top line growth. I think this is fair. And if this scenario comes true, you're looking at 26% annualized return, or, a bit more than a triple on your money over 5 years. That definitely would be an excellent return. To really quick talk about multiples, we're talking about 18, 25. A lot of people say, hey, if we just look at the last 10 years, Adobe has traded for, 40, 50 times multiple, or maybe even more. They're trading for their cheapest valuation in 10 years. Well, you know what? Maybe they were just expensive for the past 10 years. And by the way, if you go back, more in 2012, 2011, 2010, they were trading for a cheaper multiple than they are now. And yes, it's true. In that time, this was before Creative Cloud and they were sort of switched to a subscription model. The company wasn't growing as fast. But my point is, I would just caution people from putting too much emphasis on the historical multiple of a business. Just because a company has traded for, some 50 times multiple in the past, that doesn't mean as much as you think when you're making assumptions about the future. So all in all, what's my opinion of this company? What's my opinion of this investment? Well, I think the risk reward is pretty good. I think Adobe looks quite reasonable. 15% return in my base case, that's decent. The bear case, you're still getting an okay return. So all in all, I think Adobe looks good. I understand why people like it and why investors are buying it here. I would still want to buy this company for cheaper. I think I said last time that under $300 a share, I would be interested. At that price, I'd be looking at more like a 20-ish% annualized return in my base case. I think Adobe looks undervalued to me. It doesn't look dirt cheap. I know some people call this company dirt cheap or that the market completely hates it. It definitely isn't loved right now, but it's not trading for a dirt cheap multiple. So in summary, I get why a lot of people are interested in this. I get why a lot of people are buying this stock. For me, I'm going to hold off If the stock price goes up from here, if it doubles, if it goes, 600, 700 and I miss out on Adobe, that's fine. As I've said in other videos, there is no single stock that I have to own. I don't have to own Adobe. I'd like to own this stock. I'd like to have it in my portfolio, but I want to buy it at a price where I think I'm just getting simply excellent risk reward. And right now today, I think you're getting decent risk reward. So it's a pass for me. That might change in the future, but if you got value out of the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to make sheets like this, consider following me on Patreon. Link to that will be down below, and I hope to see you all in another video.